Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast brought to you by StravaCraft Coffee. Remember to use the promo code DNVR25. You'll get 25% off your entire purchase of that CBD-infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering StravaCraft Coffee. I'm your host, Drew Creasman. I'm the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is beat writer Patrick Lyons. And on this episode, we're looking forward to the first game of the Colorado Rockies versus the Houston Astros out on the road. Going to be really diving into that one. Yes, Liam, seeing whether or not the Rockies can keep the winning streak, the momentum that they've mostly just had at home, but lately been better on the road, alive for this trip against a couple of pretty good teams here. We've got some Olympic baseball on the docket for you. Always fun when we get to talk international baseball. Team USA coming away with the silver medal. We'll give you a little bit of Rockies history with regards to Team USA, which should be a whole lot of fun. And for those of you on the live, and make sure that all of you out there are subscribed on YouTube and you're joining us for those, it's going to be a little bit of a two-parter. Those of you listening to the podcast, you'll just hear, the next two podcasts when they come out. But if you're with us live here today, we're going to do a show, take a quick break, hit you up with another live show. So we hope you'll stick with us through that. Did want to begin really briefly by addressing the kind of big news story that wasn't almost from last night. Basically, as soon as we wrapped up our live show after the wrap on Sunday, right, I saw a bunch of people that had tweeted at me the video of what seemed at first like a fan screaming a racial slur at Lewis Brinson of the Miami Marlins. And the only reasons I wanted to bring this up at all is just on a personal level to remind myself and everybody of like the diligence and vigilance of, one, making sure that you're being anti-racist, but also two, following the facts and being vigilant about making sure you know what actually went on there. Like a lot of people, I sort of immediately reacted on Twitter and went out and said the same things everyone else was saying. Disgusting. This person should be banned for life. All that kind of stuff. And, as more information came out, we've actually gotten now reports this morning from the Rockies and Thomas Harding, and, all of this stuff has been confirmed that they met with the fan, that he really was yelling for Rockies mascot Dinger, that it wasn't, that it was picked up on the field mics in such a way that was really unflattering. And it really did sound like he was saying something else. But, and now I see some people saying, should they change the name of the mascot? And this is just one of those things where everybody just needs to take a big, deep breath and go, we all wanted to do the right thing in being vigilant against racism. And now we all need to do the other right thing, which is just recognize the facts of the day. We got it wrong. I mean, this thing really blew up on Twitter. This was trending nationally. There were people who aren't involved in sports who were tweeting about it. It was starting to become one of those, like, oh, are we going to see this on the news tomorrow? But luckily it does seem like the facts have prevailed here, cooler heads, hopefully. And you got to feel awful for this person who didn't really do anything wrong and caused this whole situation. So just for me personally, it doesn't mean much, I'm sure, but I'm sorry I overreacted. Though of course my intentions were good, just like lots of other people's were. And the ultimate good thing here is that it wasn't what we thought it was. That was the best possible outcome here. And what really started getting my mind going on it was a lot of people asking, why didn't anybody else around him say something? I've been living in this community my whole life, and I know that, we're not perfect out here in Colorado, but I didn't believe for a second that if those people around him had heard what we all heard on film, that's when I really started second guessing. The initial reaction was no. And then it all makes sense. They heard the word he actually said. So the disparaging of the community that was briefly going on last night was frustrating to see too. So it's time to just everyone take a deep breath, take a step back and go, whew, good thing that was a nothing burger. And hopefully that it's all over, right?
And good thing we came to the resolution sooner than later.
Yes.
Where, like you said, on Twitter, a minute can feel like a lifetime. And in a relatively short amount of time from last night to first thing in the morning, everything was kind of squashed. We figured out what was going on. No one was doxxed. No one was completely canceled for something that we thought, hey, if this is what happened, and there are a lot of optics to suggest that would be the case, then, something should happen. But if not, hey, it's it's I don't want to say it's easy to take a step back, because at a certain point, hey, once fingers do start getting pointed and once names start getting out there, you can't really go back from that. But nevertheless, the community was very vigilant on Twitter. That same concept of, hey, wouldn't have somebody in the ballpark kind of pointed this person out if they would have heard it? Well, on Twitter, everyone, that same Rockies community was like, well, wait a minute, right off the bat, this person is horrible if they had done that, right? So the community, you see that reaction. It's the same thing that we saw in New York when the player, rather a fan, threw the baseball at Alex Verdugo, and Yankees fans immediately turned around and said, this was the person who did that. It was wrong, and we don't have a problem with doing that. And so while on one hand, you'd like to think that that could happen, that it doesn't always happen. That's not always the response in an instance like that. So I'm glad we got to the resolution in a relatively short amount of time. And, I don't think a lot of damage was done. Any damage that was done, I certainly feel sorry about. I don't necessarily know what it is. I'm open to and interested in learning about whatever that damage may have been. But at the end of the day, I think the truth prevailed, thankfully, and it wasn't this scenario that we thought it was. Not the worst case scenario, just the scenario that it appeared to be from all fronts.
Yeah. Misunderstandings happen, and you've got to be able to. And I think that was the part of it where I like I said, why I very personally want to do, because I feel like I know what that feels like, not on that scale whatsoever, but to have a bunch of people believe you did something and be like, I didn't mean to do that. It's not what I was doing. So glad that was all clarified and taken care of. Let's get into some baseball now. Get into the Colorado Rockies going on the road for a 2-game set against the Houston Astros, who again remain right there despite my prognostications that were maybe a little bit more hopeful than anything else, and some of the beliefs that this team was maybe on its last rungs. And they're certainly not out in first place by a ton. They've got the Oakland Athletics right there on their tails, 2 games back of them in the AL West. But the Astros still a first place team at 66-46. Hosting the Rockies here. The Rockies have actually managed to play well. I feel like this is one of the few first place, especially good American League teams that the Rockies have actually fared well against over the last couple of years. But none of that matters. Some of it maybe does matter, but it's this team versus that team, 2 games. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I picked Houston to win the American League West because they just had enough of those pieces that were there in 2017, 2019. Yes, we know about the cheating scandal. Yes, we also know other teams did it. So it's this big blur, but we know that those guys are used to winning and they know how to win, even without certain supports. And there's enough of that there when you have that culture. Again, it's nothing that you can really manufacture. It's nothing necessarily that you just bring one guy in and then that's the explosion that you need of chemistry within a clubhouse. You never know what that's going to be. But when you have a group of guys that are used to winning together, they're going to want to continue to win together and go forward. And you even saw the Cubs before they disassembled. They were in the hunt for a while there in the NL Central because it was that same group of guys. And you say even in a down year, even in a year in which so many of the auxiliary pieces weren't going well, they can still figure out the way to get it done. And with Greinke at the helm of the rotation and Altuve bouncing back and Bregman, Michael Brantley back again, re-signed. Carlos Correa is going to be a free agent after this year. I expect him to probably sign a lengthy extension. It's enough pieces. They're doing a little
Correa stays in Houston.
I think so.
I think that's pretty logical. I agree with you there. I can see a few other teams getting in on that. But there are as we were talking yesterday, there are a lot of shortstops available, and not just the stars, not just Baez, Correa, Story. We talked about Corey Seager, the other big star there. Then you've got that Andrelton Simmons, guys like Jose Iglesias. There's just
Didi Gregorius, I think, is going to get kicked back on the market.
I think
again.
That's right. I've looked at Didi a little bit. That's something I learned. But yeah, I think you're probably right about that. I think this team does have more juice left in them than I was giving them credit for. Still think there's a chance here that my Oakland A's can come from behind and get this division on them, that they can finish strong. But Stros with that very quality pitching, man. They just have got some pretty fantastic arms out there that are tough to go out and compete against. And even going like in game one, Jake Odorizzi is like the numbers don't. Or you remember a couple of years ago when we were real big in on bringing that guy to the Rockies, and he's just been one of those super consistent dudes. So his numbers don't blow you away all the time, but you look up and you go, it's really tough to knock this guy out of a game. Like, the way the Rockies have been coming out these last several and putting up a 9 spot in an inning or even a 4 spot in an inning semi-regularly as of late. Like, you're not going to do that against these Astros pitchers. So you've got to tighten up all the other elements of the game, because you're not going to go out there, watch them do it, but you're not going to go out there and win 13-4 because you like, these guys are too professional for that.
Yeah, fan of his because, as you said, professional pitcher, career like number 3 pitcher, and there's not that many guys that can do that consistently, right? We know the frequency of which guys get injured, and he was banged up last year in 2020 and didn't make very many starts to begin with. Only had 13 innings under his belt, but just one of those kind of throwback guys that probably isn't even in the Hall of Very Good, right? He's in the Hall of Good. Hey, remember Jake Odorizzi? Like, that'll be a name that we talk about. And he's almost, I think, in some ways, in that, at least nationally, and tell me what you think of this comparison, he's almost like a John Gray, where, he might not be an ace, but he's a guy that teams covet and say, no, if we can pick up this guy, whether it's short term or whatever it is, like, this is a linchpin in our rotation to rely on and we can count on. And again, we've seen Gray, I think, go out and have more dominant starts than Odorizzi has had in his career. But I think in that same general spectrum of, there are teams out there that are going to go after this guy. And I think when Odorizzi, signed pen to paper with Houston, he was betting on himself to do well there, still in the American League. He's hasn't spent any time in the NL. In fact, this is his first start against the Rockies. But betting on himself and saying, hey, this is a scenario in which I can go out and maybe get a ring on a 1-year deal. So we've been a fan of his. Him and Kyle Gibson were guys that a couple years ago we talked about, man, they would fit in really nicely in the Rockies rotation when there were still a couple questions. They didn't have Gomber, Senzatella wasn't a surefire thing at the back end of the rotation. Right. And so, it'll be interesting to see Odorizzi against Gray on Tuesday head to head.
Yeah, I like that comparison. I do think that Gray has been, I think you're right, that by a national consensus, they're probably seen as roughly the same guy. And I do think Gray has been a bit better at times. He's been more uneven.
Agreed.
It's hard to compare the two because Odorizzi's calling card has been the consistency, and Gray's been more dominant at times, striking out 16 Padres in a game. The stretch he went on in the second half of 2017, where he was one of the better pitchers. I think by WAR in the second half of 2017, he was like 4th among National League pitchers. Stuff like that, where he's flirted with being elite. You still have to make the Coors Field adjustments and stuff. But at the end of the day, I would guess that their ERA pluses are about the same 109, 110. Without having, I think that's about where John is. And I haven't looked at Odorizzi's ERA plus in a bit, but I would bet they're within, I'll say over under 5, a margin of 5. If we brought that up. I really like the matchup. Obviously with this having been Gray's most consistent year, and you're just kind of looking for that to continue. You don't need him to have dominant outings anymore. If this is the guy he's going to be, 6 innings, 2 runs, you're going to take that every single time out of him. And that's the evolution of his career. Tough place to pitch. The cheapest home runs in baseball are hit in Houston. People think it's Coors, but Coors is like 9th on that list. So it'll be interesting to see if those guys can get the ball in the air, or if Gray and Senzatella can keep the ball on the ground, but it's going to be. It should be. No, we said this in the Marlins series for the first guys. Like, should be some really interesting, fun pitching matchups. Should be some good pitching baseball with the Rockies on the road. I think we got a higher chance. I might get back to taking my unders on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, very close on the ERA plus. Odorizzi, of course, 2 years older, has about 2.5 more years of experience, but ERA plus actually favors John Gray over Odorizzi. Gray's at 110, Odorizzi 103.
Oh, yeah.
The one other interesting number that I always find to be interesting is how much money these gentlemen have earned in their career. And I think going into this season, John Gray, $16 million because he's yet to reach free agency, and Jake Odorizzi, $48 million. So 3 times as much money than John Gray, even though according to ERA plus, Gray does have the edge. So I'm always fascinated with going back and looking at players' careers and seeing how much they made, and even a utility infielder that hangs around for 9 seasons. You go and look and you go, $30 million they made in their career. I will never see that in my life. So
It's like
good for Jake Odorizzi for making that happen. And after this offseason, I'm sure John Gray's career earning numbers will go up a little bit higher. But head to head, each of these guys don't have too much experience pitching against Houston. I think Martin Maldonado is the one guy that has the most at bats against John Gray so far, and we're talking 8. That's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, I am going to hop on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, place some bets on some unders. I think I think we're over the explosive offense here. I do think they're going to play better, but I'm going to hop on there, get some unders under the belt for sure. With the Olympics now in the book, I've got a different promo for all of you. Hopefully there's some fun college football fans out there. I still like going, obviously, overs, unders on strikeouts, runs scored, who's going to hit a home run, all that kind of stuff. Rarely on who's going to win the baseball game, as I've often said. You can try. If you've been betting on the Rockies to win at home all year, by the way, I think, you've been winning a ton of money. RK just put out the tweet, and I think they're like 21-5 for at home. If you've been betting and like just betting on them at home lately for their, especially taking runs and overs and unders and all that kind of stuff, it's been wild. So get it all done. For those of you that are college football fans, or if not, again, these almost always land, so you don't need to really follow that closely. Download the DraftKings, the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now, and use promo code DNVR to receive $200 in free bets when you place $1 bet on any college football game. That's promo code DNVR to get your free $200 in bets instantly for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
I'm seeing August 28th as the first NCAA college football game. So until then, unless you can bet on preseasons, we'll find out. That's what's going on right now. But if you don't want to wait that long to win some money, I've got my DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week today. It is in the Dodgers game with Max Scherzer on the hill, but it is not the Dodgers and Max Scherzer. I got the Philadelphia Phillies winning today outright. They're plus 150 just to win. They're at home at Citizens Bank Ballpark.
Love that.
They're coming off the high of Zach Wheeler's big start on Sunday, Roy Halladay Day, where they retired his number. And I think Aaron Nola is due for a big bounce back. And I know it's Mad Max. He's used to pitching in that ballpark as a member of the Nationals, but the Phillies are just too hot right now. They've won 8 games in a row. They're in first place in the NL East, and I don't really see them giving it back. They've got all the mojo with the hot Cy Young contender in Wheeler. Bryce Harper's is being mentioned a lot more now in the NL MVP race. So I think they're going to come through and end the Dodgers 2-game win streak. So DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week, the Phillies Monday night over the Dodgers plus 150. Not bad for them.
Like that. The first place Philadelphia Phillies. How about that? Look at them. So, all right. Good stuff. Gotta like that. Also, I'll throw back a Breck Brew while watching that, seeing if the bet money rolls on in. You know, you can get your Breck Brews and your Breck Seltzers down at your local King Soopers or liquor store, or you get a bigger one at the DNVR bar if you're a member of the family. Highly, highly recommend you get set up with that. Subscribe today at the DNVR.com and access to all the written content, the bigger beer, discounts on hats and shirts, access to the Discord channel. You get to come and hang out with us basically 24/7. A free shirt from the DNVR Locker. All the stuff. Basically all the stuff. You just get to be a member of the family. All kinds of cool stuff. And don't forget that we are hosting fantasy football down at the bar. If you want to host that, you got to get in touch with us. You can call the bar or you can email, where is it? I just lost it. GM@thednvrbar.com. Let us know if you want to come out, watch some fantasy football, hang out with everybody. You'll get a couple of free pitchers of beer, one Breck, one whatever you like. We'll hook you up for bringing your party on out to us. I'm probably going to get out there for a few of those. It's been a while since I've watched Sunday football in a rowdy bar, and I enjoyed that at times in college and really didn't at others. But I've taken a long enough sabbatical. I feel like I'm ready to go, especially if it's among our people. Again, when it's our community, the DNVR family is so welcoming, so awesome that environment is just going to be, as much as it'll be rowdy, it'll also be positive, which it really matters to me in being in public space. So I can't wait to get down there and hang out with some of y'all this fall and winter.
Do you think Teddy Bridgewater is worth taking a flyer on late?
Ooh.
As like a last pick, last ditch effort?
Though I am going all in on Drew Lock this year.
Okay, I mean, so you probably are going to skip that because you're saying, hey, Lock's the guy.
I'm biased. I'm pro Drews. Pomeranz, Stubbs, Butera, Goodman, Lock, Breeze, Barrymore,
Hill, Drew Hill. Nah, different spelling. I'm out.
Yeah. I'm pro
Barrymore. You got me on the Barrymore there. I would not have
Carey.
That one in a million years.
I don't know how I leave out an all-time Drew and Carey. That's a bad swing.
Well, you know what? I don't like losing in these fantasy drafts that we do, or just trivia contests. You whooped me on that one because I had nothing. I had nothing in my Drew bank. I had no Drews to throw in there.
Barrymore is always a fun one to remember. There you go. Yeah. This counts.
That is good. Yeah. I don't know who she was named after. That's short.
I know that also, though, like me, she's not an Andrew. That's one know. Like some of these other ones might be Andrews. And
I had a close friend in high school named Drew, but his full name was actually Andrew.
Andrew. Yeah, you got to watch out for those people. you got to keep an eye on those people. It's the straight Drews we're looking for. All right. So, a little more here.
These aren't the Drews you're looking for. All right, let's go back. My goodness. All right, so Drew, do you think Trevor Story hits any home runs at Minute Maid Park? And I bring that up because one of the stories early on in the season was this idea that, oh man, he's not hitting a lot of home runs and this, that, and the other. Look at what he would do in another ballpark, right? So he's got 12 so far this year. At Minute Maid, he would have 26.
Son of a.
And that's not even the most. The most is actually Angel Stadium, where he'd have 32. Same thing at the Yankee Stadium. But 26 in Houston, especially with that short little porch they have in left field. Do you think he's going to – I think he may hit 2.
Yeah, and he's hot right now. Yeah.
Smoking hot.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'll probably place some units in each game. If he hits one in each game, fine. If he just gives me one, it's still going to pay out more because those home run bets always pay out long odds. I like that. I'm with you. That is also infuriating. That you got to make the outfield smaller. I think I've said this before. That's brutal. He's got 12 home runs, and in some parks he could have 32 or 26. And obviously you're not going to play all of your games in one park ever, right? So that's frustrating.
Coors is 12, and the next lowest is Arizona. He would have had 15 in Arizona, then 16 in Kansas City, and then I think everything else is 21 or more. Detroit's 19. Minnesota 21, everything else more than
wild.
21. So almost nearly double everywhere else. That's
Is
crazy.
he hitting line drives too low? Does he keep hitting the ball off the barrier? I'm going to have to dig into this deeper because that's truly bizarre.
Yeah, and it's the expected home runs by park is a very interesting statistic. Scroll down on any player's page on Baseball Savant. If you happen to check that out, baseballsavant.mlb.com, and you could look at that and you maybe go back and you see, oh, DJ LeMahieu, yeah, his swing was perfect for Yankee Stadium all along. And I'm sure there's some teams probably that are looking at his page right now going, in our stadium, he'd do a lot better. He'd have a lot more home runs. In fact, it almost seems that Coors Field is suppressing his power in many ways, which it sounds crazy to fathom. And I hope no one isolates this clip and plays it back for me because I realize how stupid that sounds.
But it's true.
I'm looking at data, and the data says that's every year. That's the least amount of that's the ballpark he would have hit the least amount of home runs in.
Well, and one of the things I've always tried to, and I've had this conversation at least 24 times with our guy Manny Randawa, and he tends to agree that one of the biggest problems that we're having with the advanced metrics and the advanced metric community that's trying to wrap their head around what's going on at Coors Field is that most of these metrics are built to be uniform. They have to be. They have to apply across a broad base of data. That's the only way that they're reliable. And I've always held, and I think I've convinced Manny of this, that Coors Field doesn't treat everyone the same. And this is why it's difficult to get hard data on what exactly it's doing. Coors Field can at the same time suppress Trevor Story's power and increase, say, some other hitter. I'm trying to think of someone whose power. The people we know who it increases their offensive profile are people like Ryan Tapia, DJ LeMahieu. When he was going well, a guy like Jonathan Daza, these guys who put the ball in play, their BABIP goes up because there's such a huge outfield out there, so much more area for the ball to fall in play. I always thought DJ LeMahieu got a ton out of playing at Coors Field on purpose, whereas Nolan Arenado got nothing out of playing at Coors Field. It impacted his offensive profile, in my opinion, zero. And I think we're kind of seeing that a little bit where, in St. Louis, he's been basically the same player, a little bit lower batting average. Other than that, basically the same. And that's what's tough here because you're like, yeah, it can be suppressing Trevor Story's power, but aiding Ryan McMahon's power, because Rymack has that lefty swing that takes the ball into the gap the other way, and that's going to add X number of extra base hits or whatever it may be. And that's just an example. I don't know that that's happening or whatever, but that's why it's so bizarre. It's because you want to get a handle on it. Say, Coors Field does X to offense, but it depends on the player, and then sometimes it even depends on the season that the player's having. If Trevor was pulling the ball more, he'd probably have a lot more home runs and be taking advantage of Coors Field. You could argue that right now Trevor Story isn't taking advantage of Coors Field, or you could argue that he's coming under just incredibly poor luck. And he just keeps hitting the ball to the spots at Coors that don't happen to give up as many home runs. Whereas another stadium, those areas are giving up home runs. It's super interesting and complicated and cool.
Yeah, I think Coors Field is just because the outfield is so large. I think that might be one of the limitations of the expectations by ballpark saying, okay, if this ball travels, 390, that's going to hit the Breitich barrier and is not a home run. Whereas in 12 other ballparks, that may be a home run. Because for McMahon, the numbers are kind of similar where they're suppressing his home runs a little bit. I think he's got 13 now, and maybe he should have 23 at Minute Maid, which even if he was on Houston, he wouldn't be playing all of his games in Minute Maid Park. He would still only be half. So there's that element to it as well, which I find to be an interesting statistic. And you can even go back and look at some of Nolan's numbers, at least from 2019, where again, Coors Field, he might have had more home runs elsewhere. So it's just one of those those weird things that we have to dig into and look into, and eventually an analytics department from right here in your own town can figure some things out and maybe make the outfield smaller and have a purple monster going, all the way around in 90 degrees. Why not? Not 360, because then you won't have box seats behind home plate. That would work. It's only 90. It's only 90 degrees.
I'm telling you.
The purple monster, which is probably what we should call Dinger now going forward anyway. So if we need to, the purple monster.
The purple monster. Just to avoid any, oh goodness. There's one of my favorite scenes in that old Aaron Sorkin show, Sports Night, before he did all the other things. And the new editor comes to them and it's his first day and he's put together a video package for a baseball game. Some random middle of the season Cubs Marlins game, didn't have any, and his video package comes in and it's like 7 minutes long. And the anchor is saying, dude, it's got to be a 30-second spot on the game today. We got to get through this. Give me the highlights. Give me whatever. The guy's like showing him the first at bat, like every foul ball, because the guy eventually grounded out. And he's like, this is a routine play. And the guy says, there's nothing routine about it. He was hitting 350 in this situation against these guys. He's been getting on base all year. And the fact that they got him out in this situation meant that 3 innings later, doing that baseball thing we love. And the anchor eventually says to him, you got to make it shorter. He says, I don't understand what you want me to do. He says, it's got to be shorter. It's like, sometimes it's complicated. Sometimes it's not. What do they do? Make the outfield smaller. You got to make it smaller. But Efren saying Rocks 4 games over since June 1st. Fool's gold is still gold. Let's go, baby.
And maybe they can make it a complete 4-game sweep, because if you recall, Rockies did win 2 games against Houston earlier in the season. I think that was even in April. 2019 and 2020, Houston won all 4 games. In 2015, Houston won all 4 games. So really, outside of 2018, when they split 2-2, I think 2018, that was also when, if you recall, as I remember that game pretty vividly, that Charlie Blackmon made the comment about there's a lot of Broncos fans in the house tonight.
Oh,
it was a late August game, and thought that was very funny. But outside of that split in 2018, it's been nothing but a series sweep going back to 2013. Yeah. So I don't know if there's something to that, if that's luck, but if you want to keep going with that and saying, hey, these 2 teams, when they play each other, you either take it all or you get nothing. Well, that means Rockies are going to win the 2 games there in Minute Maid.
There you go.
Maybe.
Beefy prediction, I would say, sir. Very beefy. You know where I'm going with that. Wagyu beef from Hassel Cattle Company is my absolute favorite thing right now. Just loving the Wagyu beef. If you haven't tried it before, we've got some down at the bar. You can come down, have a burger there, try it out, start ordering some for yourself. I know you will. Maybe make a smaller order if that's what, you just want to try a steak, get some of the burgers, do whatever. But I promise soon you'll be just like me, ordering over $200 to get free shipping, getting the promo code DNVR10 to get 10% off. Also, right now, by the way, they are giving away a $200 gift card and a cooler to one lucky winner. All you have to do is head to the DNVR Sports Twitter page, click on our link. It's in the pinned tweet. It's free. You can win money, a cooler, you get notified by all their best deals. You get some fantastic stuff from them. And you should also just get some of their beef. It's really, really good. The Wagyu beef tastes delicious. Doesn't have any of the antibiotics, hormones, all that gross crap gets into your body. Doesn't treat the animal well. Doesn't treat the environment well. Save some money. Get some better tasting and better for you beef by going to Hassel Cattle Company. It's HASSELL cattlecompany.com and use the promo code DNVR10. While you're waiting for it to come in, because I know you don't have any yet, you gotta eat today. Head on over to Illegal Pete's. Illegal Pete's, they're delicious. You know what they got. You're getting your house margs or your burritos, your burrito bowls, queso, fantastic stuff. They got happy hour 3 to 6 every day. $1 off drafts, $1 off house and coin style margs, $20 party margaritas. They'll give you a free draft beer or house marg with purchase of an adult entree if you show them a ticket to any same-day event in Denver in the Denver. I don't even. It didn't even necessarily say in Denver. I don't know if you went to something in Fort Collins and you happen to be in the Denver area and you've got your ticket. Show it to them. Let's see what they do. They're trying to encourage everyone, to get back out there in a safe way to support the community, revitalize the community. You got to love that about Illegal Pete's. They could just as easily be one of these chains that kind of disappears into the whatever, and nobody would probably hold them responsible for being a better member of the community. I don't think people expect chain burrito restaurants to necessarily do that, but they're also kind of a family business and they pay their employees well. They, do all the stuff you love to see. And so they're helping out the community. If you feel like throwing down a burrito and feeling good about it, Illegal Pete's is the best you're going to do.
And they've got such a great vibe in there too. Like they've got this community type vibe. It's funny because you mentioned the one in Fort Collins that has like a rooftop deck to it. That's fantastic. There's one in Boulder on the hill. So again, whether you're going to a CU football game or CSU football game, there's just a good vibe there too. So get those potatoes and, bug them and say, hey, do you guys have any of that Wagyu beef from Hassel Cattle Company? Let's see if we can get the synergy going.
Right? Oh man, can you imagine? That would be insane. All right, Patrick, let's wrap up with a little bit of international baseball talk here. A little bit of Olympics, as we mentioned, Team USA coming away with the silver medal. Congratulations to Japan on really being the class of international baseball this year. Pretty clean gold medal win. They beat Team USA twice, so it's hard to take away. Really, yeah, they were the guys this year. But man, we've talked about it before. I think we're both big World Baseball Classic guys, even though that seems to the audience is iffy on that kind of stuff. International baseball is just so much fun. And it's great to remember the just kind of purity of the game. Like Todd Frazier, I know that was a big thing, this time around, and his long story. I was reading some of those. This guy played in the Little League World Series, or watched his entire major league career, and now he's still out there playing baseball in an international way. Just talk about the dream, dude. Why couldn't I have been Todd Frazier?
I had not thought of that. That is interesting, is that this is the second championship game for all of the marbles he has played against Japan as an 11-year-old, because he went back the next year. He did it as a 12-year-old as well. Yeah. One of the rare, back-to-back World Series winner, or not winner, but Little League World Series competitor. So does it at 11 years old, and then now at 34, a little bit older, but has that opportunity as the leader of the team. You're right. International play has been great. I think, because of the pandemic, the World Baseball Classic kind of lost some of its steam a little bit. Yeah. I think maybe even to a degree, you could say that maybe the WBC has lost some steam because Team USA has finally won the gold medal. Like they won it the last time out. So you go, oh, all right, well, USA is supposed to be the best, but the fact that they can't win it and these other countries are getting the job done, and you can see the electricity and stuff, in a way it becomes this golden carrot that's dangled in front of Americans' eyes, so to speak. And I think that can help a little bit. But you're right, it's so much fun, and you get to see the different cultures kind of celebrating and see what it means to these nations. And it's definitely something that is going to take some time to continue to grow, because it's still relatively new. Like the first year that the baseball was in the Olympics was 1992. Like some people listening to this, they weren't born then. Yet at the same time, you go, oh, that's so the baseball in the Olympics is as old as the Rockies. That's not very long. And no, it's not. There also was a period of time that we just got finished where baseball wasn't even an Olympic sport from, I think it was 2012 through 2016. So there were 2 years where it wasn't even a part of the Olympics anymore. We just got it back this past Olympics. So it's definitely something that's going to take time to grow. I think MLB saw that need for, supporting it with the World Baseball Classic, filling that need. I'm not sure the next time they're supposed to have it back, because I think they had it in 2017, so 2021 it was supposed to happen this spring. They may have moved it back to 2023. I'm not sure exactly, but it's definitely something that, you're right, is when it's going down, there should be a lot more attention to. And I think that's why you saw Japan with so many of their best players over there. In fact, the Nippon Professional Baseball League, they've had a timeout. They're like, no, we're going all in. We're sending some of our best players. We're not going to have any games going up against it. We want people just focused on this. And you understand why MLB isn't going to do that, and that's fine.
Sure.
But you know what? Over time, things like that can make a difference. And it'll be interesting to see if Team USA can qualify, because they didn't qualify in 2004, which sounds crazy. You'd think USA would qualify every single year. But if they can qualify for the next Olympics, you got Team USA winning the gold medal, playing America's game. It's the world's game, but it has very much become America's game, and winning it in Paris. And that's just going to be an interesting sight. The Parisians probably won't be big supporters of that narrative, but I'm all for it.
I really do love stuff like this. You just gave me an interesting memory. So sorry if this sounds like a non sequitur for a minute, but I was watching this. I really like to watch like short historical documentaries on YouTube. I watch a ton of these things about stuff I've never heard about. And just yesterday, I was watching something. Oh boy, see if I can remember the guy's name. Bart Sama. It was a Mongolian traveler who eventually met Marco Polo. So like in the 1200s. Stick with me here. Like, what are we doing? And this guy traveled, from Kublai Khan in Mongolia, like just all the way through Jerusalem and up into Paris. And that's probably where my brain connected all of these dots, right? But one of the things was that a certain sect of Christianity had taken hold in Mongolia without people in the West necessarily really realizing that. And this guy, again, I think Bama Samsur, I'm not saying it quite right, but was a member of that sect. And so he shows up in the West, this totally strange looking person, totally strange customs, all of these things that are different. They, can't speak with anybody, but through translator, they figure out he's a member of the same religious sect. And then they go and do a ceremony and they have him perform, and everything is the same. And everyone comes together in this moment and realize they are kindred spirits from halfway across the world in the 1200s, when, way before knowledge or information could travel around the world like that. And that's what international sports does, right? You say, oh, you speak that language and you eat that thing, and these things are funny to you. They're not funny to me. And I speak this language and I eat this stuff and this stuff. But then when we go out on the baseball field, oh, you do the same thing that we do. We're doing the same thing here. We are the same, you and I. We're a member of this same religious sect, and our religion is baseball right now, or whatever your sport may be. The gymnastics, international community of people who could not be more different, but also could not be more the same. It's a beautiful thing, and
that's a wonderful sentiment. I love that for this Olympic team who comes away with the silver medal. I want to use the word flag bearer, but I also want to use that word literally. Was Eddie Alvarez, who he did actually carry the flag out for Team USA, or rather for the United States at the Olympics. Was the first baseball player to do it. But in winning a silver medal, he actually became only the 7th person to ever win 2 medals. For the U.S. in different Olympics. So did it in speed skating, does it in baseball. He started every game at second base. As far as Rockies connections, Jerry Weinstein was the bench coach. So we know and love Jerry Weinstein, former Rockies coach and minor league instructor. Scott McGuff was a name some fans will remember. I saw him pitch a bunch in Albuquerque in 2018, never made it to the Rockies, but was part of the organization. And Matt Kemp, while he did not go to Japan, he was a part of the qualifiers.
Former Colorado Rockies legend, right. Matt Kemp.
That's right. And I don't know who else he played for, but I do know he was pivotal for the Rockies.
That's right.
Going back before that, because there was no Olympic baseball in 12 and 16, you had Dexter Fowler as a minor leaguer. Brett Anderson, who was also a minor leaguer at that time before later joining the Rockies, and Casey Weathers, who was only a minor leaguer, never even made it to the majors, but was pivotal, of course, in the famous Tyler Colvin deal. I think that's what we call it, right? The Tyler Colvin deal
trade. Yeah, right.
Love it. Go back to 2000, Roy Oswalt, again, minor league player at that time. That's the only year that the Team USA had ever won the gold medal. So would later on go on to be a future Rockies. A couple international dudes. In 1996, right there on American soil in Atlanta, Team Cuba won the gold medal. Jose Contreras and Rolando Arroyo were on that team. They were also future Rockies players.
Yeah.
And then finally, 1992, these were all college guys, minor league players. Jerry Weinstein was a coach then as well. So he represented them twice.
I love Jerry.
He also, I think he was like Team Israel manager in
he did.
World Baseball Classic a couple times. But on that 92 team, there were 4 future Rockies players. Jeffrey Hammonds, Ron Vallone, look it up, Charles Johnson, and Jason Giambi.
That's a pretty solid list of names. That's pretty good. I was expecting a few more total randos, but those are some ball players. Yeah.
So close to about 15 guys. So if you say, well, the Rockies don't have anything to do with the Olympics, well, eventually they do, right? There's not a lot of active players that then go, like Scott Kazmir is the only one that, will most likely sign a deal here. He was released earlier in the season. But other than that, it's baseball doesn't really allow for that. There were some minor league ball players that were there that was a part of it. Tristan Casas was one of the big ones, first base prospect for the Red Sox. But eventually, keep your eyes on some of these guys, and those stories about representing Team USA and that experience playing the other countries, sharing that religion of baseball. Eventually, they do come to the Rockies. They do come to Coors Field, and you get to hear all about that.
I remember it being a big deal for Dexter Fowler. I think actually even in the piece that I wrote when he was traded, this was back at Purple Row. I used the picture of him shaking hands with George W. Bush at the time when he had gotten named to be on Team USA. And I know it was a big deal for Fowler to have that experience a couple of years before he would make his major league debut. And so, for some of these guys, it's a really, really big deal, and they don't all go on to stardom or even solid careers, but some of them do. And it's a fun kind of note on the resume, right? Like it was for Fowler. So cool walk down memory lane. That's fun. Yeah. All right, folks, for those of you on the YouTube live, make sure that you're hanging out with us. We're going to take a very short, 5-minute break. We're going to be right back. We're going to do a little more previewing of the next game in the Astros series here and talk to you about some other fun baseball stuff. In the meantime, for those of you listening to the podcast and everybody else, we appreciate y'all. Make sure you're subscribed to the DNVR.com. Make sure you're following everybody on social media at Patrick D. Lyons, at Creasman, at DNVR_Rockies, that you're doing all the sponsor stuff out there, eating your little Pete's and drinking your Strava Craft coffee and Brew, though not together. Try not to mix those things. Remember, anytime you help out our sponsors, it really, really does help us out. So we appreciate you all for continuing to be absolutely awesome baseball fans out there. We promise that we will continue to be absolutely Patrick Lyons and Drew Creasman in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.